Hello, and welcome to Captain Dorja's Armory. This is Captain Dorja, and we are on the 8.8 test server, and we are going to be taking a look at the 112. The 112 is a new Chinese Tier 8 premium heavy tank. It's been made available on the 8.8 test server. All you have to do is play one battle via the missions interface, and you receive the 112 and the T-34-3. So I'm really excited by this tank. I really want to take a look at it. I just think it's going to be a really, really fun vehicle. I haven't played any games in it yet. It just looks promising. I don't know if any people here are familiar with Krebs Coho, but I watch Krebs sometimes, and mostly Krebs' War Thunder videos. And if you're familiar with Krebs, Krebs likes to call himself a plane collector. He owns pretty much all the premium airplanes in not World of Warplanes, but War Thunder. And in World of Tanks, I'm sort of a tanks collector. And this is one that I definitely want to get. I'm thinking anyway that it's going to be fairly similar to the IS-6. So while we look at this in the garage, we're going to be comparing to the IS-6. Now I really, really like the IS-6. It is a fairly mobile heavy tank with good hull armor and really high damage per minute. It just specializes in brutalizing vehicles that. Essentially, it's great at killing medium tanks, and it's really good at just smashing anything that's not Tier 8 or higher. So this tank is really good for just beating up on Tier 8 mediums and lower Tier 7 heavies, Tier 7 tank destroyers, anything that doesn't have a lot of armor. The IS-6 just clobbers it. It's really fun to play. I think the only premium heavy currently available that can even come close to the IS-6 is the T-34, just because it's got such a brutal gun. But like a skilled driver in an IS-6 is one of the most dangerous premium heavy tanks on the battlefield. A lot of people disagree with me because of the low penetration on the gun, but a lot of people are really stupid. So anyone who disagrees with me, I just write them off in that particular case, because they're wrong, basically. I've got enough experience with that particular tank to know it. And I think that this tank is going to play a lot like the IS-6. I really like the IS-6, so I think the 112 is probably going to be my cup of tea. Now, let's take a look at the two tanks side by side, and then we'll get this sucker into battle. So here we go. We got the IS-6 on the left and the 112 on the right. The IS-6 has 50 more health, but that's not a very large difference, so I'm not too concerned with that. The IS-6 is heavier, 52 tons versus 47 tons, but the IS-6 has a 700 horsepower engine. The 112 only has a 580 horsepower engine, so I'm going to have to do the math on that to get a power to weight ratio real quick. So while I'm doing that, we'll take a look at some of the other stats here. The speed limit of the IS-6 is 10 kph slower, with the 112 being able to go 45 kph. They have the same traverse speed, which is 26 degrees per second. That's not very fast at all. That's one problem you have with the IS-6, is that the tank, if you get mediums driving around you to flank you, you can't really keep up with them, so they can get onto your side pretty easily. And that's definitely not good when you're a tank that brutalizes mediums. So the traverse speed is not the strongest point on either one of these tanks. The hull armor on both tanks is pretty strong. 100 millimeters at the front on the IS-6, and as we can see right here, it is very sloped. But the one problem that I do have is because of these cheek plates. It is hard to angle your front plate without providing just a flat target on the cheek. Well, since the 112 just has a straight glacis all the way across, you'll be able to angle the tank without providing a flat cheek, which should be nice. Now, the counterpoint to that problem is the hull armor on the sides of the IS-6 is still 100 millimeters. On the 112, the side armor is thinner. It's only 80 millimeters, but the front plate is 120. So hopefully we won't have to angle that much because of the very, very steep slope. Hopefully we won't have to angle the 112 very much to make good use of that armor. Both tanks are 60 millimeters on the rear, so we don't want to be getting shot in the butt. Now the turret. The turret is looking like a real up spot for the 112. One of the weaknesses of the IS-6 is its turret really isn't very strong. 150 at the front, 150 at the sides, 100 at the rear. People see the side of your turret and it's just if I have the side of an IS-6 to fire at, I shoot at the turret. It's an easier target. And guns with high penetration frontally will just shoot you right here and just go in. But with a 240 millimeter thick turret front, the 112 should be a lot less susceptible to that, although it does have a couple of pretty decent sized hatches on top, which are almost certainly weak points. And the turret side is actually thinner than the IS-6 at only 130. So your side armor might still be pretty vulnerable on your turret. And both tanks have weak turret rears, 100 on the IS-6 and only 60 on the 112. Now, I knocked up the power to weight ratios. The power to weight ratio on the IS-6 is about 13.4 horsepower per ton, whereas on the 112 it's only about 12.4. So you have an entire extra horsepower per ton, which doesn't sound like much, but that kind of thing actually tends to make a fairly large difference. So we gotta, take that for what it's worth. Now the turret traverse speed, 24 degrees on the IS-6 versus 26 on the 112, so we got a little bit better on the 112. And view range. The 112 is quite a bit better view range, 380 versus 350 meters. And also, the signal range on the IS-6 is pretty terrible at only 440. The 112's at least got a 600 meter range radio, so that's definitely good. Now the next thing we want to look at is the guns, because the armor on the IS-6 is quite a bit of what makes it special. It's surprisingly durable at only 100 millimeters thick, but the gun is really what makes the IS-6 a special tank. For a heavy tank, it's got incredible damage per minute, and the guns on these two tanks are similar, but they're also, they've got some differences. They're both 122 millimeter guns, and they're both basically variations on the same gun. They both have 175 penetration and 390 average damage with standard AP. They both have .46 accuracy and 3.4 second aiming time. The real big difference is the rate of fires are not the same, and the premium shells are not the same. Rate of fire on the IS-6 is 5.13 rounds per minute versus 4.55 on the 112, and the other main difference is premium shell ammo. One of the biggest weaknesses of the IS-6 is when you encounter Tier 8 or higher heavy tanks, and some heavily armored tank destroyers like a Jagdtiger 88 or a Ferdinand, if you don't have a good shot on the Ferdinand, they can be very difficult to penetrate because you only have 175 millimeters of penetration. And if you switch to premium, you only have 217 millimeters of penetration. Well, the 112 kind of solves that problem. It's got 250 millimeters of penetration on its premium heat rounds. So if you get into a situation where you have no choice, and it happens, you're a heavy tank, even when you're trying to avoid the places where the top tier heavies go, looking to just kick the mediums, you'll run into heavies anyway. And sometimes you just can't pen them, and you can't always outmaneuver them. And with the IS-6, you basically are screwed. The 112, you'll be able to heat your way out of problems. Now, I don't necessarily think that's a good thing, but it is a thing. So you need to be mindful of it. The average damage per minute on the IS-6 is obviously going to be higher because it's got an entire round per minute more, or half a round per minute more, with the same alpha damage. So the DPM on the 112 is 1775, which is pretty good. And on the IS-6, we've got an average damage per minute of 2,000. So that gives you a pretty good indication. This tank, its strong suits are, pretty good armor, all things considered, and really high DPM. What I'm thinking is that the 112 is going to be better frontally armored, not as good everywhere else. Slightly worse DPM, but that's made up for by the better frontal armor and the ability to fire heat if you need to. So that's my take on this tank from the garage. It's time we get this sucker out into battle. So without further ado, combat. Alright, here we are loading into battle with the 112. We're on the map Highway. Not gonna lie, I hate this map. Anyway, regardless of my map feelings, we're here testing out the 112. This is my first battle in the 112, so just kind of bear with me. Got a lot of other people out testing these. I'm only going to be doing the one battle in the 112 for right now. I'll get some more probably tomorrow afternoon, or this afternoon I should say. It's pretty early here, and I'm only going to get a few hours of sleep, and then probably going to end up working all night, so I got to go to bed. Right, so enough of my personal problems. Let's take this thing into action. Now, this is not really going to be the ideal environment for this tank in a lot of ways, I don't think, because I'm going to be going to do the duty of a heavy tank fighting other heavies. And I really think in a lot of ways the niche of this tank is going to be when you can go fight mediums. So we got KB2s, team killing each other. What do you know? Europeans, not Russians. Huh. Oh, look at that. They're in a platoon. Oh well, it's the test server. At least it's not the live server. If those guys were doing that on the live server, they'd be just like retards beyond contempt. And there you go. The ISU team kills the other KB2. I wonder if the other KB2 shot the ISU first or what. This is an interesting drama we have unfolding. I wonder if the KV-1S and their platoon will now team kill the ISU for vengeance. So we can see here the T-34-3s. They're faster than I am, but I didn't even think about it. The mobility of this tank is impressive. It's taken a little while to get up ahead of steam, but as far as the heavy tank goes, it's actually accelerating pretty quick. Once it gets moving, it's moving fast. Oh, look at that! All the team killing. We don't have the best gun depression ever on this tank, but it's not horrible either. So that's encouraging. Now let's looking for the targets. Okay, that guy is definitely vulnerable. Alright, and his side armor eats it. I've taken one shot that was a heat round, it looks like. No, that's standard AP, to the commander's hatch. So that went in. Not really that surprising that a shot to the commander's hatch went in. I will never penetrate the front of a 110, but we'll give it a try. I did bounce one of the shots that was fired at me. I believe it was a shot from the 110. So that's a good sign that this tank's frontal armor is not a complete joke. There we go. We put a huge hit onto that T-34-3. That was over 400 damage. That was almost a max damage roll. And we are already almost reloaded. Where is he? Let's just... Oh, he's dead. Never mind. I was going to say let's just finish him off, but somebody else beat me to the punch. That 110 over there is hauled down pretty effectively. This tank is going to have a hard time penning him frontally. So what we're going to do is we're going to extend out onto the flank so that when we fire at him, we can be firing at a flatter portion of his armor. That tank has a pike nose hull, so if I move over this way, I can fire at either at side armor or at flatter armor. Now you can see right there, I managed to bounce a couple of shots, one off the front plate, one off the side armor. It looks like this tank might have spaced side armor, so that's good. So we're going to fire at the 110 again. Go for the turret side. There we go, we put a big hit through his turret side. Reload on this gun is pretty fast. It's not quite as good as an IS-6, but it is still pretty quick. We're able to put the hurt on that enemy Lervo and put a good hit onto him. Let's reload and see if we can... There goes a heat round at that 110. See if we can get through the lower plate of the 110 at this range. And we bounced. Now, that was a very narrow-angled shot, and he was maneuvering a lot. So he was probably actually angled pretty effectively against me when my shot hit. So I'm not really that surprised that shot failed to go in. Now I'm thinking the enemy's got 3 medium tanks that are all pretty fast, and we have nobody at our base. So I'm going to head over that way. We're going to use the good speed of this tank to reposition to the base. And I don't think I should have too much trouble once I make it back against those guys. They have powerful guns, and the DPM on the Object 416 is really high. But the 416 has no armor at all. So I should be able to penetrate him with pretty much any gun that any shot that I fire. But I'm going to load an HE round just to make sure I can get the hero reset. Well, I don't want to say it like that because I'll fail. Now that I've said that, I won't be able to get the reset. It's obvious that they're capping with at least 2 people. It looks like a 3-person cap. So I've got seconds to get in there. I probably won't be able to reset in time. This looks like a win for the enemy medium force. We'll find out, though. It's going to be all about how fast I can spot somebody and how quick I can fire. And it's too slow. Oh well. That's one thing that I really hate about this map. There's so much cover in the base that you actually do have a better than average ability to do stuff like fast cap. Now let's take a look at the results here. I didn't do very much damage. I only put in about 3 shots. But you take what you can get. So there we go. 7 shots fired, 7 hits, only 4 pens. That's not really very good. But again, I was having to use the tank, and it's in a role that I really don't think it's going to be made for. Like the IS-6, the role of this tank is not to take on the enemy heavies, it's to take on the enemy mediums. You just smoke medium tanks and bruise the low tier guys. This tank is a bully. You pick on targets that are not your own size, and you pick on the little kids. And I don't mean the little kids as in the young players, I mean the little kids as in the lower tiers. So, not to be offensive or anything, but you can see here that even with that mediocre performance, we still pulled in 39,000 profit and 540 experience. So even with a bad showing from this tank, we were able to do make out all right. Now that's not great, even for a defeat. That's not great, but it's definitely a whole heck of a lot better than, say, breaking even or making 5K or losing money like you would with a lot of other tier 8s and 9s. So, I mean, that's why people get premium tanks, to make a lot of money and to get convertible experience and train crews. So we'll take a look at some other battles later, and yeah, right. We'll jump into some other matches soon. Alright, so this will be our 3rd battle in the 112. My 2nd battle in the 112 was really, really awful, so I'm not going to show it. Simply put, I walked into a masterfully laid ambush by an AMX 5100, and I had to choose between dying to a 5100, dumping an entire clip into my back, or turning my back to a Tiger 2 and another 112 to try and kill the 5100. So either way, I was pretty much screwed. So now we're in a new battle. We're on Himmelsdorf, and I am going to try and hold the 8 line. Now, I have said before that I really think the area of expertise that this tank is going to fall into will be that of brutalizing enemy mediums, and that it's not really going to be at its strongest when you put it into the traditional role of a heavy tank. So you may ask, why the heck would I take a tank like that and go to, quote, heavy tank alley, which is where I am right now. And the reason for that is simple. I think this tank frontally is going to be very, very rugged. And sometimes, even when you don't want to play the heavy tank, you just have to. I don't think anybody else on our team is going to do it, so I'm going to do it. Alright, let's test the Super Pershing's front armor. Alright, well, he's able to eat my shot, and where did he pen me? On the move into my commander's hatch. Very good shooting, Mr. Super Pershing. So let's just keep moving to throw off his aim. Alright, he's fired. And I missed his weak spot, which is pretty amazing considering how huge they are. Let's just try and see where that shell went. Ooh, this is too good to... Sometimes you just have to go for... What is going on? Alright, so I just got a huge lag spike combined with lots of shots to my commander's hatch. And I'm basically being overrun and abandoned by my team. Let's see how long I can stay alive and stay firing here. Super Pershing side, easy. Now I'm not able to focus fire on anything because these guys are just swarming me with targets. Oh, I need to put a hit into that T-34 as soon as I reload. Shoot. I wasn't able to stop to fine aim and scope in, so I hit the T-34's turret front, and my shot bounced. I need to kill that T-34 ASAP. Oh my word, I'm just failing so hard right now. I gotta let my teammates work, I just gotta stay alive. Super Pershing bouncing off my front hull. The lower plate of the Super Pershing was able to eat my shot, I'm pretty surprised. Super Pershing's lower plate is actually pretty weak usually, so we'll just get ready for a commander's hatch shot. There we go, we get a good hit on the Super Pershing. Unfortunately, our team's right flank is cascade failing, so our defensive effort here is probably going to be for naught. That had to have been a premium shell. Oh no, he fired through my lower plate. Well, it might have been a premium shell, I don't know. The Super Pershing has horrible penetration. Firing down at a lower plate like that, angled at that kind of an angle, and he goes from being unable to damage me frontally to just penning like butter 2 times in a row. You be the judge. But our team is winning the hill, and our FCM-50T is flanking behind. So, well, the FCM really ought to be able to clean these 2 guys up pretty much instantly. Oddly enough, the enemy 112 decided to execute his friendly Super Pershing. That is not a move that I rightfully understand, but oh well. I don't have to understand it. Our team is actually in a pretty strong position right now. This FCM should be able to put out quite a lot of good damage right here, and the enemy really only have 3 tanks left, and all of them are pretty beat up. We have 5 tanks about to be in their cap. KV-4 just took out the enemy T-34-3, so this battle's pretty well over. This battle's been won. That was an interesting tactic by that FCM. I'm not sure what he was trying to do there, but he's still alive, which is lucky. So, basically, that match was kept from being a horrible defeat by really good defensive efforts on both flanks, while our team broke through on the hill and just killed everything. Good work from the FCM-50T, flanking around, taking out a lot of people. That wasn't the best example of the 112's gunnery potential, but it was a pretty good example of how much of a tough stick that thing can be if you get it into a defensive location. I was able to angle up and kept reversing back and forth to make commander's hatch shots much more difficult. And the only reason why they eventually were able to take me out is Super Pershing. He eventually just went man mode, whether he used premium ammo or not. Eventually he just put his man pants on and came over and killed me. So, lucky for him that he set me on fire, but the only real difference if he hadn't set me on fire was it would have taken him 3 shots instead of 2. So, all told, a pretty decent game. Definitely not like an expert display or anything, but not too bad. 66,000 credits and 13,000 experience for a battle where I really didn't have a very strong showing. So you can see I put out only 2,000 damage. That's not horrible, but it isn't great either. I was able to tank 4,200 damage, which is pretty decent for a tier 8 heavy with 1,500 health. We bounced 6 of our 10 shots. All 10 shots hit, but 4 of them bounced. 2 of those bounces were absorbed by the spaced armor on the super Pershing. Actually, that's not true, because I had 3 shots absorbed by the super Pershing spaced armor. I basically was testing its armor. And I had 2 bounces off the enemy T-34. So one of those super Pershing spaced armor hits must have also done some critical damage. So, but still, for only getting 6 penetrating hits, being able to do 2,000 damage isn't too bad. I know it's not anything special, but you take what you can get. We absorbed 15 hits with 8 bounces. So that shows just how well this tank can perform frontally, even at very close range. Those guys were at maybe 50 meters, and it was an enemy 112, a T-34, and a super Pershing. So 2 kind of low pen guns, but 1 hyper pen gun. T-34 for tier 8, it's got such high penetration, I call it a hyper pen gun. So yeah, I mean, I was disappointed to see that the commander's hatches were such weaknesses. The T-34 didn't even squarely hit the hatch. He basically grazed the top of my turret, and it counted as a penning hit. But the super Pershing was able to pen our hatch, and the T-34 was also able to pen the roof of our turret. So let's take a look at another battle or two in the 112, and then we'll wrap it up with some conclusions. Alright, we're loading into battle in the 112. Once again, we are on the map Highway. I'm not a big fan of this map. Personally, I feel like the side that spawns where my team is spawning right now, we have an advantage in the city. We can approach all the way to here with cover, and we can easily approach to flank here and still have good concealment. So I feel like this map is fairly unbalanced. But anyway, that point aside, I'm not going to go into the city. I'm going to go into the field. And I'm going to go into the field because that's usually the domain of the medium tanks. And I want to try and put this thing to work as a medium tank Punisher. So I'm actually going to take this tank and go field. Hopefully some of our fast tier 8 mediums will come with me, and we can just roll up the enemy. That's what I want to happen. Now, I don't know how well this tank will perform in a 1v1 against T-34-3s. The T-34-3 has the same gun with the same rate of fire, same penetration, same damage, same heat rounds. It's not as well armored, and it doesn't have any gun depression, so those are some serious disadvantages. The T-34-3 also has 200 less health, which is nice. But they really, as you can see right there, have a big edge in mobility. And mobility is definitely a weapon. So this could go really well or really badly. If I can keep the T-34-3s in front of me and I can angle my hull, they should have a pretty hard time penetrating. Also, they'll have to advance pretty far into the field. Oh, speaking of advanced far into the field, we've got an E-25. That's not good. He's going to be spotting my flank as I try to push up. Potentially this is a very bad situation right here. I'm probably going to eat some flank shots to try and deal with this E-25. But I've halved the HP, the E-25, and we've driven him out of his position. He's now running, which actually makes things better for me. I can present my frontal armor to enemies that are going to be firing at me. I don't have to present my side armor. So let's try and hit this guy while he maneuvers. I should have let him more, but I didn't. See the friendly 112 right there? He's given too much of his side to this super Pershing. Super Pershing's able to pen pretty easily. And we have a T-34-3 right there, trying to get a shot on me. He backed up as I fired. Looks like a fairly low velocity round on this gun. So that's going to make shots on the move and shots at tough targets like an E-25 more difficult. Not sure why. Okay, one of those guys is a super Pershing. They have all the mobility of a dead baby. I'm thinking, what are these two mediums doing? And then I realize one's a super Pershing. It'll take him all year to get over here. This 112 that's next to me, he's spent a lot of time giving the lag spike. He spent a lot of time giving the enemy his flank, so it's no surprise that he's pretty beat up. The side armor on this tank really is not very good. Now we're going to do something risky. Okay, the super Pershing shot at the T-34-3. We're going to fire at his commander's hatch. And there we go. You can see the friendly T-34-3 fired a heat round against the super Pershing's front plate, and the super Pershing spaced armor ate the heat round. No surprise, spaced armor is designed to devour heat. The E-25 is penning my lower plate. And we clutch shot the E-25 as he starts backing up. But he just put 3 little holes in my lower plate. Dangerous, dangerous little TD. But we're still pressing. This is what I feel like this tank is made to do. Press against mediums and essentially light armored vehicles like an E-25. So we're going to continue pressing in. We're going to look for the enemy. Okay, SU-152, ISU-152, very dangerous. But no shots on the ISU, so we'll take side shots into the super Pershing turret any day of the week and twice on Sunday, which incidentally enough, it is not a Sunday. Looks like that E-25 is still shooting at me. That guy's a master of repositioning. Hoping to kill him with that shot, but it went low, and he is just penning me everywhere he shoots. That guy overplayed his hand, and we were finally able to punish him. Now the ISU is coming into it. I just bounced a shot from an ISU-152. That's some frontal resiliency. And with our high alpha damage, we're able to punish the ISU. I'm not sure if that guy's AFK or what, but I want to put this super Pershing down. Jeez. Well, I detracked the super Pershing and the ISU detracks me. I'll reload before the ISU, but the ISU is gone stealth. Put a speculative shot at him, and I actually want to back up some. I'm here alone, and even though it looks like, oh, the ISU landed that one, I'm going to die. I'm alone against an ISU and against the super Pershing. We put a big hit onto the ISU, but I'm down to 23 HP. These guys just need to load an HE round, and I'm done for. Clutch shot the ISU. We get the penning hit. ISU-152 out of commission. So I basically have to hope that these two guys remain AFK, and I have to get lucky against the super Pershing. Give me your side. Give me your side. Okay, we're going to go for his turret. We bounce. Unlucky. We bounce his shot. I'm going to load HE. I'm going to load HE, and I'm going to move to a place where I don't have to expose so much of my lower plate going for these guys. I want to roll out to the left. I want to come back around. The enemy T-34-3 is no longer proxy spotting me. Okay, I knocked over a tree. That wasn't what I wanted. I'm proxy spotted again, so the super Pershing knows where I am. I can't see him. He can see me. I've got a little HE round for you, Mr. Super Pershing. Where are you? Now, he can be maneuvering too, but we know about the mobility of the super Pershing. And he did maneuver. Like, pretty smart play, really. And 9 damage. That is HE. That's HE performance since all the HE nerfs. So yeah, I may have been killed, but I feel like that was actually a pretty good demonstration of the performance you can expect from the 112 when you put it into a situation where it can go against the enemy medium tanks. The most dangerous thing there was actually that E-25, because he was so agile, and because of his high rate of fire, and his very precise gun. Even though he has low penetration, he could just blast away at our lower plate with impunity. So that was actually a pretty good battle. We managed 418 damage and 300 spotting damage to this Super Pershing, 500 spotting damage to the T-34-3, 650 spotting damage to the 5100. Both of these guys were AFK, or else I would have been dead long before I was. I put 3 shots into this Super Pershing and only did 372 damage. One of those was an HE round, and after firing HE into the side of a Super Pershing and only doing 9 damage, I would not advise people to use HE to finish off low HP kills. Just stick with AP. So that was very frustrating. Yeah, all we did was track on him, tracking damage. Put 3 shots into the enemy ISU for all of his HP and the kill. Put 3 shots into the E-25 for all of his HP and the kill, plus we damaged his tracks. So in that battle, we only did 2,630 damage. Again, that's a little disappointing, but that's not too bad. Really good game from our KV-1S. Well played to him. I absorbed 18 hits for almost 4,700 damage. I got shot by an ISU-152 3 times. One bounced, one detracked me, and the other did about 800 damage. So the frontal armor and the turret armor got a workout. The ISU hit my turret with the BL-10 and bounced. So yeah, that is pretty impressive on the armor side. If that had been an IS-6, that ISU-152 shell would have gone straight in, and he would have actually killed me. But instead, I was able to kill him. So yeah, here we go. We made 92,739 credits. There's a mission available. I believe it is. Yeah, this mission right here, top 3. Be in the top 3 players by dealt damage, only in random battles. Credit coefficient 1.5. So this is my credit earning 92,000, but because I completed a mission, and we got a little look at the new mission interface. Here's the mission, top 3. Here's the reward. Here's what you need to do to complete the mission. And here's the mission availability. And apparently I've completed the mission twice, so that's cool. And here you go. Here's my mission reward. Half again the number of credits that I would have made. So even without that additional 50,000 credits, I would have made a profit of about 70,000, 65 to 70,000 profit. That's pretty good profit. Because of the mission, I made a 117k profit and 1,759 experience non-doubled. So you can see that this tank, it's good. I like it a lot. Okay, it's good. That's not a good enough summation. What I mean by that is I put this tank into a situation where I could make use of its high alpha damage, high rate of fire, and good frontal armor. I didn't go one-on-one against heavy tanks where my low penetration would be the deciding factor. I went against lightly armored vehicles and medium tanks. Lightly armored vehicles like the E-25, lightly armored vehicles like the ISU-152. Also, my strong frontal armor was able to protect me against even the heavy fire of the ISU-152. Definitely strong enough to keep me safe from a Super Pershing, and even against the T-34-3, I think, as long as I could keep him shooting my frontal plate and my turret, I don't think I would have really had anything to fear. And since I was going against lightly armored vehicles and medium tanks, the low penetration of my gun is not a factor. The only things that are factors are the high alpha damage and the pretty good rate of fire. Again, because the accuracy and the aiming time are long, we fight at close range, where accuracy and aiming time aren't that big of a deal. I was able to pull off some clutch shots where I wasn't fully aimed at E-25 from, only about 100 meters, maybe even less than that. But still, E-25 is a very, very small tank. I think if you can get the 112 into a situation where you don't have to go against the enemy heavies, Or if the enemy heavies are ones that are notorious for having very large weak spots, like the KV5, like the T-34, which has its really bad hull armor, pretty much any tier 7 heavy, then you can do the traditional role of a heavy tank. But if you're fighting a lot of tier 8s, you're not going to want to go against the heavies. You're going to want to go against the mediums. You're going to want to find the light armored vehicles, and you're going to want to roll over them. That's what we did in that last battle, and you can see it worked out very well for us. We were able to do a lot of good. Basically, we pushed our flank, and then when everyone else who was pushing the flank with us died, we were able to weather the storm, keep up the pressure long enough for reinforcements to come in and take the field. So I'm really impressed with the 112. And by the way, we did that with a 94% crew. You know, this is the crew I have in my IS-6. You know, they're a lot better. The T-34-3, when I was rolling around in that, I was using a crew with 3 skills at 100 and 1 skill at 51. So, I mean, it's not like we were just going out and stomping on them with a massive advantage in you know, games played, player skill, being elite. We weren't firing any premium ammo. I haven't fired a single heat shell in the entire... Well, I didn't fire any today. I might have fired heat in the first battle. I honestly don't remember. But, like, this tank has got it going on. If you can learn how to drive it, go against the mediums and the light armored vehicles, try to avoid the big heavy battle, you're going to be able to really stomp on people with the 112. Really looking forward to it. When this comes out on the live server, I'm definitely getting one. And I'm definitely going to get me a T-34-3 as well. So guys, I hope you enjoyed these videos. I hope you found them to be helpful. Feel free to, you know, comment, like, and subscribe, anything like that. I welcome the input and the feedback. But until next time, guys, this is Captain Dorja here on Captain Dorja's Armory, and just remember, you can never have enough big guns.